You ever notice how some people can walk into any room and just fit? They laugh at the right time, say the right things, never seem confused or out of sync, and then there's you, standing there wondering why everything feels like it's happening through a glass wall. Here's the thing. Most people will tell you it's social anxiety, or that you need to come out of your shell. But what if I told you it has nothing to do with confidence, and everything to do with how your brain is wired? Stay with me. Let me ask you something. When someone tells you a story, do you just listen? Or do you start building timelines in your head, cross-referencing details, noticing inconsistencies they didn't even realize were there? Yeah, that's not normal, and I don't mean that in a bad way. See, most brains are designed to accept information and move on. Yours? Yours wants to solve it, dissect it, understand the mechanics behind it. Psychologists have a term for this, cognitive complexity. It means your brain doesn't do surface level. It physically can't. You're constantly scanning for meaning, motive, context, which sounds cool until you realize it makes you exhausting to be around. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because most people aren't operating at that frequency. And that brings me to the first thing you probably do without even realizing it. You assume everyone else sees what you see. You think, obviously this doesn't make sense, or why is no one questioning this? But here's the twist. They're not questioning it because they're not wired to. Their brains are satisfied with the answer they got. Yours is 5 steps ahead, already poking holes in it. That gap, that's where the loneliness starts. Now here's where it gets interesting. You know that thing you do where you go silent in group settings? Not because you have nothing to say, but because by the time you've thought through your response, the conversation's already moved on. That's not hesitation. That's processing speed, mismatch. Your brain is running a simulation of how your words will land, what follow-up questions might come, whether what you're about to say is even worth the energy. Most people, they just talk. You're trying to understand. And the brutal part is, no one sees that. They just see someone who doesn't talk much. Here's another one. Small talk. God, the small talk. How's the weather? Busy week? Did you see that thing everyone saw? And you're sitting there like, is this it? Is this what we're doing? It's not that you think you're better than small talk. It's that your brain is starving for something with substance. You want to know what people believe, what scares them, what keeps them up at night. But you can't just ask that, right? So you smile, you nod, you say, yeah, crazy weather. And inside, you're dying a little. Studies show that people with higher cognitive ability often report feeling socially understimulated, not because they don't like people, but because surface level interaction feels like trying to breathe through a straw. So what happens over time? You stop trying. You start preferring your own company, not because you're antisocial, but because at least when you're alone, you don't have to pretend. You can think, you can explore ideas without someone cutting you off or changing the subject. And here's the kicker. Society tells you that's wrong. You need to get out more. You're too much in your head. But what if being in your head isn't the problem? What if the problem is that most spaces aren't built for the way you think? Let me say this clearly. If you've ever felt like you're too much, too intense, too analytical, too quiet, too questioning, you're not broken. You're just surrounded by people who process the world differently. And that's okay, but it also means you're going to feel out of place. A lot. Not because you don't belong, but because the environments you're in weren't designed for minds like yours. Here's something most people won't tell you. Intelligence isn't always an advantage. Sometimes it's a burden, because you see things others don't. You notice cracks in logic, flaws in systems, contradictions in behavior, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So you're stuck watching people accept things you know don't add up. And if you speak up, you're difficult, negative, overthinking it. But if you stay quiet, you feel like you're lying. That tension between truth and acceptance is something highly analytical people carry every single day. So what do you do with this? First, stop apologizing for how your brain works. You're not too much. You're not too intense. You're just wired for depth in a world that often rewards speed. Second, find your people. They're out there. The ones who don't need you to dumb it down, who actually want the deep conversation. They're rare, but they exist. And third, protect your solitude. It's not isolation, it's restoration. Your mind needs space to do what it does best. Don't feel guilty for taking it. If you've ever felt like you're watching life from the outside, like you're fluent in a language no one else speaks, you're not alone. You're just awake in a way most people aren't. And that's not a flaw. That's the price of seeing clearly. Real question. What's the one thing you can't stop analyzing even when you try? For me, it's conversations. I'll replay them for days trying to figure out what someone really meant. Drop yours in the comments. I'm curious if I'm the only one doing this, and if this felt like someone finally put words to what you've been experiencing your whole life. Hit subscribe. because we're going deeper every video. Not the surface stuff, the real patterns behind why people think, act, and feel the way they do. Let's figure it out together.